I was 17 when my dream almost destroyed me. My name is Mfon, the sixth of eight children. My father was a farmer. My mother sold vegetables in the village market. We didn't have much, but we had love. Then came Madame Cash, a woman of glamour, money, and smooth promises. She offered to take me to the city to help with her children and continue my education. I begged my parents. I cried. I told them this was my chance. They hesitated, but finally agreed. I thought I was going to find light, but I walked straight into darkness. The city was loud, fast, and unfamiliar. Everything smelled like gasoline and perfume. I expected warmth. Instead, we arrived at a high-walled mansion with shiny gates. Inside were girls, many girls, none smiling. Some barely looked up. Madame Cash led me in, then suddenly snapped her fingers. Two boys grabbed me. I screamed, my voice cracking. What are you doing? They dragged me to a door and locked me in a pitch black room. No explanation. For 3 days, I stayed there. No food, no lights, no water. I shouted until my throat went dry. On the third day, the door creaked open. I was pulled out into the light. Everything burned. My eyes, my skin, my heart. Madame Cash stood there. Her smile was gone. Take her, bathe her, feed her, then bring her to me, she said to one of her girls. They washed me like I was an object. They didn't speak, just scrubbed and poured water. I sat across from Madame Cash, wrapped in a towel, weak, numb. You belong to me now, she said, sipping wine. You work or suffer. I begged her, please, I want to go home. I won't tell anyone, just let me go. She threw her head back and laughed. You meet your first customer tonight. A girl about my age pulled me aside in the hallway. Her name was Innie. Her eyes were heavy. Don't fight them tonight, she whispered. Just obey. Why? I asked. She held up her hand. 2 fingers were gone. I beat a man once, she said, voice shaking. They used a broken bottle. I felt my knees give way. My mouth went dry. I tried to scream, but air refused me. Regret stormed me like fire. Madame Cash had come with gifts and promises. She had even hugged my mother. What changed? They dressed me in lace red. I looked in the mirror and didn't know who I was. They pushed me into a dimly lit room and locked the door. I waited, trembling and praying. Then he walked in. Tall, clean, cold eyes. His name was Eric. He looked at me surprised. You're a child. Why would she send you to me? He turned to leave, but then paused and came back. You know what? I might have use for you. Later that night, I watched him hand over a briefcase to Madame Cash. She hesitated, then smiled. As I walked past her, she whispered, You think you've escaped hell? The real hell is waiting for you. Eric's house was beautiful, too clean, too quiet. He gave me clothes, hot meals, a tutor. I began to smile again. You're safe here, he said. Just deliver packages and never open them. I obeyed and trusted him until I found out what I was really carrying. It was during one delivery I dropped my bag by accident. A corner of it tore. White powder split lightly. I froze. That night, I asked Eric. He looked me in the eye. Don't ask questions, Mfon. I saved you. Remember that. I wanted to believe him. I told myself he was better than Madame Cash, but inside, a war had started. Eric threw a party for his business partners. Music, Laughter, waiters in tuxedos, girls in gowns. Then I saw Innie. She was dancing, laughing too loudly. Her eyes looked dead. Eric saves girls, she told me. He doesn't touch us. He uses us smartly. Another girl joined. We're invisible moles. No one checks a quiet schoolgirl. My stomach twisted. I wasn't saved. I was repurposed. It was raining. I took a cab. Another passenger had the same kind of bag, and we switched by accident. I delivered the bag to men in black jeep. One of them opened it. What is this? Shoes, not drugs. They raised their guns. I tried to explain. Bang! I hit the ground. Everything turned red, then black. I woke up to a white ceiling, tubes in my arm, pain in my chest. A child stared at me. Mommy, she's awake. Miss Fiona ran in. She had tears in her eyes. She held my hand. You're safe now. I broke down. For the first time, someone had saved me without asking for something. I told her everything. Then she called the police. Police raided Madame Cash's mansion. Screams, chains, and crying girls. They rescued over 40 girls. They found photos, fake passports, bottles of pills, and blades. Eric tried to flee, but the airport security was tipped. He was arrested with two passports and $90,000. Mrs. Fiona didn't just save me, she stayed. She called my parents, sent them money, and took me to therapy. She never once looked at me like I was broken. I finally learned to breathe again.